a right thing, a moral thing, an ethical thing, a conscionable thing, an honorable thing, an integrity-filled thing, a soulful thing, when we care about the welfare of our fellow human beings. Okay? So, if God's going to allow it to happen, this is a big deal, man. This is a huge neon light flashing. The return of Jesus is imminent because, I mean, that's the power that is coming upon the earth. If we really do see a new trajectory and we start seeing the captives really be setting free, and we said, we're never letting go of this again, man. This feels really good. We all start feeling better. Rich Dad Robert Kiyosaki says, you know what? I don't care. My houses are worth 1/10 of what they were. But I could buy 1,000,000 more if that's what I'm into. Or I can upgrade to buying castles and all this crap. I mean, I don't know what you want, man. But I mean, numbers mean nothing after a while. After our currency's worth so much, who cares? We're free. The system will work. Prove that it won't. Prove that it won't. You cannot do it. There has never been an appreciable period of time in history where the regular people, the commoners, the plebs, have ever been allowed to be free from the money masters. It's been too irresistible, too enticing, too alluring for these money lovers. And that therein lies the root of all evil, just like Jesus spelled it out. There's nothing new under the sun. This money is a very powerful entity. Let's see, 1796 was when the property tax was implemented in the United States. Big mistake. Communism, right under our noses, was implemented. If you can't even own the roof over your head, and the government, you're paying rent to the government perpetuity for eternity, come on, come on, come on. That's communism. That's bull. The tax could be all funded with the transaction tax. Max Kaiser had, I can't remember his name, on the show this last Thursday, it was, yesterday. Yeah, do a transaction tax. We could be in the black in a matter of months probably with a transaction tax on the Wall Street. And all sales tax, and all property tax, and all income tax. More than one way to skin a cat, my friends. It's coming. Good is coming to the good, to the righteous and upright. The people that really say, okay, God, you know what? I might be wrong about everything I believe before right now. But you know what? I'm going to start believing in you. And that's believing very lofty, idealistic things, credos and philosophies. North Korea. The North Korean people must be petrified at what's going on. They've all seen what happened in the Middle East. I feel so sorry for these people. That one guy tried to defect, and they shot him dead. You know? Oh, that was perverted display. Should give everybody an idea about communism. So, if we fail to learn from basically about the North Korea thing, what this Kim Jong-il character, he'd be committing suicide by militia if he pushes the envelope. And all those people are starting to realize it. That's basically what they're going to, all these sycophants that are going along with him, they're committing suicide. We've all heard of suicide by cop. Well, this is suicide by militia. You know, if we fail to profitably learn from recent history, and I'm talking about, let's go back just JFK's recent history, the going off the gold standard is recent history. Opening trade with China is recent history. Uh, Going off the Glass-Steagall Act is recent history. The bankster bailout of '08 is recent history. 9/11, that's recent history. If we fail to learn from recent history, what good is learning ancient history? You understand? I mean, we are so far gone, folks. We've got to really contemplate, just how, the dire straits that we're in as a civilization, as a species. We have fallen so far, and we just incrementally we've accepted this handed to us. I mean, if these evildoers running the show, if they had tried this crap overnight, we would have revolted. They would have been thrown over. They know that. They knew they had to do this thing in steps, incrementally, like all those steps I just pointed out that we should have learned from in recent history. But what are we going to tolerate? What's next? What do they have up their sleeve? I don't know. I don't think they have much. I think they're being neutered. I think they are like the Wicked Witch of the West, and they're starting to melt. I'm hoping that. I'm hoping this indicates that really God's will is going to be done on earth. And when it is, it's going to be a beautiful place. We're going to be free. But, about this recent history thing, the Vietnam War is part of that. Hillary stealing the candidacy from Bernie, that's part of recent history. This thing about Trump, this absurdity of Trump being investigated as a Russian agent or whatever, it's ridiculous. Seth Rich being murdered. We're accepting this Arkansas business. We got wanton mass murder going on all over the place. This is all recent history. So what are we learning from all this? Well, folks, it's rough being human. This Proposition 13, only Californians have ever heard of that, and probably not many of them remember the Jarvis Act. This was a way to manipulate markets. Because what it used to be the tax assessor would drive by every year and say, well, you made some improvements on your property, so we're going to raise your taxes. And so this acted as a check and balance about the cost of housing. Okay, so it couldn't just be manipulated by people willy-nilly, you understand? Because if you did all these improvements, you had to pay a cost for that higher worth of your property. So Proposition 13 insulated people from having to pay, it said, no, whatever you purchased the house for, whatever you paid when you purchased it, we're capping your property tax at that. You understand? So if you paid $10,000, which a lot of people did, under that, slightly more than that, back in the 60s and 70s, the houses were in the tens of thousands, then you'd say that would be music to your ears. Because you don't like the idea of, they're going to manipulate markets and it's going to drive up your housing costs. You understand? So you wanted to be protected, insulated from that happening. So this is what it did. But the implications made it even worse. It's kind of like this Section 8, where we pay $50 billion a year, but the problem just keeps getting worse of homelessness and unaffordable housing. Housing prices soar. Your housing dollar has gone through the floor. So it's a bad thing. So with what Trump's doing with this tax protection thing, it's the right thing. It's going to lower rents. It's going to lower mortgage costs. And all those people that think that's a bad thing, remember what I told you. It isn't. I mean, your dollars are worth more. You can upgrade. You can buy more of it. So look at it like that, okay? Yeah, Kaiser was talking about a $12 to $15 gallon of gas, and that's when $1. It's not going to happen. That would shut down society if that happened. So they don't want that. Who knows? The evildoers running the show. Oh, the mainstream media doesn't talk at all about Bitcoin and the phenomenon that is Bitcoin, how people paid $5 or less for this stuff when it started, the initial coin offering. And, they won't talk about the fact that it just reached over $10,000 now per Bitcoin. They won't talk about, educate the public at all about, wow, this is, don't you think that's a public interest story? Where's the MSM on that? What's going on here, folks? What the hell is going on here? We had a horrific